Right. Let's do this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Flux Chapter 6, The Vanquishers, the sixth and final episode of Doctor Who Series 13, the season-long serial Flux. Okay, this episode is again stuffed to bursting point with a lot of stuff. There is a lot going on in Flux. So, let's take it steady. The plot of this episode sees the Doctor escaping Swarm and Azure from the cliffhanger of the last episode by having them touch her while she rips off the thing that she wore in the last episode to keep her in the Vision headquarters, splitting her across 3 different parts of space. The first one sticks around with Swarm and Azure. The second gets caught up with Carvanista and Bell fighting Sontarans, and the third with Dan, Yaz, and Jericho, who have met Joseph Williamson in the last episode, and they've just escaped some Sontarans and arrived back in the present day to meet up with Kate Stewart, who is forming a resistance against the Sontarans. The third strand of the Doctor meets up with them. Meanwhile, Vinda and Diane escape the passengers outfit, and the Sontarans plan to wipe out the Daleks and the Cybermen by using Lupari ships in a trap which will allow them to become the rulers of the universe, while Swarm and Azure attempt to have the Flux consume everything and then go and see Time to claim their victory. So that's basically the plot of this serial. So much dust around here. First of all, let's just get something out of the way. We don't really learn that much more about the Vision or the Doctor's memories. We get teased a little bit by Azure with the fob watch, and we open it and we see the Doctor looking up at the house and Swarm and Azure messing around with destroying them and reforming them. But beyond that, we don't really learn anything more than what we learned last week or in series 12. All we really know is that Carvanista's got this thing in his head, which it's some sort of poison which will inject and kill him within 3 seconds if he tells the Doctor anything about their past. And he was obviously clearly upset about what happened before, hence why he tried to kill her the last time, the first time they met in this series. And that's really about it for the whole Timeless Child arc this series. The Doctor hides the fob watch away in the TARDIS, which seems to have mended by now. It doesn't seem to be as damaged as it was in the last couple of episodes, nor does it seem to be as damaged as what it's been teased in the New Year special promotion, unless it's somehow healed because of the Flux, or because the Doctor's been to outside the universe, because that's where the Flux came from. But I'm not sure. Maybe we'll find out more in the New Year special when the episode arrives. But maybe that'll tie into that story's plot. So Timeless Child stuff for this episode is kind of just abandoned, really. And I would say to make way to wrapping up the Flux story, yes, I kind of suppose it does, but we're kind of focusing more on stopping the Sontarans for most of the story, stopping their plan, taking advantage of the Flux, and Swarm and Azure's stuff is put on the back burner until later. So the episodes are more focused on the Sontarans again, as opposed to wrapping up the Flux stuff. Yeah, we do have a couple of moments, and one of my favourite moments of the episode was when the Doctor and Azure just talked to each other about their points of view on life and death. that was a good scene. I really liked that one. But besides that, Swarman is just do feck all in this episode, apart from that scene and playing with the Doctor's memories and stuff. And then at the end, they meet up with Time, who manifests itself first as Swarman, then the Doctor in the coat she wore when she saw herself as the 13th Doctor in the fugitive Doctor's place during Once Upon a Time. So we had that really cool second alternative coat. I don't think the 13th Doctor's going to be wearing that coat again. It's probably going to be more of a projection or something like taking her past selves, or we presume her past self's role in an episode, or when someone else takes her image. It's just a shame because it's a nice coat, unless she wants to wear it from one of the last episodes. Anyway, but yeah, Swarman is just killed by Time for their failure failure with the Flux / reward for bringing the Doctor, and they get Ascension, and that's about it. So they're gone. So just like what they did to Tecteun last episode, and what the Master did to Ashad and the Timeless Children, these really cool, interesting, creepy, and great villains are just gone. Just taken out of the plot. Though, to be fair, they are taken out towards the end of their stories, as opposed to Ashad, which was like 2/3 through Timeless Children, I think, and Tecteun, there was still plenty more we could have learnt. Swarman is there, they're just gone, which is a real shame, because they were great villains. I wouldn't have minded them just dying at the end, or whatever, but I think it should have been handled a little bit better, as opposed to just, right, you failed, but I'm glad you brought me the Doctor, bye. I don't know, it just feels like they should have been the big bads of the series and not really worry about working for Time. Though if it was Omega who was the one responsible for all of this, the ones they were serving, that would then make a lot of sense because of the antimatter, them serving this person who's able to control time and space by will, then that person tried to break out of their specific universe and find a physical body in our universe, a savior for maybe their race. It would have been so much better if it was Omega. But that's not so much of a criticism against the episode, that's more of a fan wishful thinking. But how brilliant it would have been if it was Omega. Also, this would make the confused Adipose's theories correct. Anyway, back to the episode that did happen. We're not going to be doing a bold streak or one of his cronies and lie about what's going on in the episode. So basically, the Sontarans have taken over again. So the Doctors and the companions and the friends have to find a way of stopping them. First of all, they get Claire Brown back from the 1960s. So she's obviously okay after the Angel was taken out from her, as mentioned in the last episode. And they bring her and Jericho to the Sontaran command so they can perform some psychic stuff. So they can tell the Sontarans where the final Flux event is going to be, so the Sontarans can lay their trap. Meanwhile, Bell and Carvanista, Carvanista and one of the Doctors gets captured, so Bell can do her mission, which I actually don't know what Bell's mission actually does. Yeah, actually, I just realised I've seen the episode twice, and I don't actually know what Bell's supposed to be doing in her episode, her job. Maybe it's the tie-in with No, I've got nothing. What was Bell's job? But the Doctor does meet the Grand Serpent, and they have a conversation. And then the other Doctor, Yazdan, they capture him, and then they get Bell from whatever she and Take Me were doing. Again, Take Me has a really good couple personalities in this episode, so I'm really enjoying their relationship with each other, as well as Bell as a character, and also Take Me, again, as I mentioned, having some great personality moments. The Vinda Diane stuff is also pretty good, and they get rescued, and then Vinda helps out, help stop the Sontarans with Bell and Carvanista, and Diane is able to provide some information about the passenger form being an antimatter thing about matter or something. To be honest, Diane didn't actually have to be in this story outside of being Dan's girlfriend. She doesn't really, like Kate Stewart, she doesn't actually contribute a huge amount to this story apart from this one piece of information and to wrap up her and Dan's romantic story. I do have to say, I found it very unfair on Diane to blame Dan. Yeah, I can understand her thinking Dan left her, was late, etc., and she got caught up by Azure when they met back up. I can understand her being upset with him then. But when they're at the museum towards the end, it still feels like she blames Dan. I mean, we can understand where she's coming from, but I feel like because she doesn't say, I know it wasn't your fault, but I'm still don't quite feel up to doing anything at the moment. I need some time to recover, and I think we should have I think we should have a break, as they would say in Friends. I think that would make, at least that would be, that would make us kind of, yeah, we can see her point of view, whilst also still feeling sorry for Dan. But how it's handled here, she doesn't really acknowledge it wasn't really Dan's fault. After all, he didn't mean to leave her. He was messed about by Carvanista, and she was captured by Azure. But she doesn't really acknowledge or understand or forgive Dan, or at least not in any dialogue. She just says she doesn't want to go out to dinner with him. And they're kind of like on a, it still feels like she's blaming him, even though he's explained. I can understand when they meet up again, when like she feels like he left her, but we're at the museum at the end. I feel like there's a bit of dialogue missed to say that she understood that it wasn't really Dan's fault, but she needs some time away from him, or they need some time apart. But that's not how it feels. Because of some missing bits of dialogue, it feels like she still blames him, which isn't fair on him. Other than that, there isn't really much reason to have Diane in this episode. Oh yeah, and Dan's house doesn't seem to be put back to normal. No wonder he's going travelling in the TARDIS. He doesn't have a house left. And also, Kate Stewart's not in the episode that much, considering we had her big return last episode. And she's pop up in this episode, and Grand Serpent's looking for her, kills this nobody character at one point in the train yard. And then when he finds he's captured by her and Vinda and sent into exile as punishment, which is a pretty cool scene, Vinda getting his own back on Grand Serpent, following what we saw in the third episode. But Kate Stewart really, along with Diane, they really drew the short straw when it came to the main characters in this episode, and didn't really do an awful lot. Same for Joseph Williamson. He's there and he explains his reasonings for building the tunnel in universe, in the Doctor Who universe, as a city to build underground so that people would survive the events of the Flux. And Flux has been causing a lot of problems across time and space, meaning that Joseph Williamson was finding stuff going portals across time and space in his land, and then when he saw the Flux final event, he built the city underground, and then these doors take him to different times and places. I think one of the ones they went to Pompeii, making this the third depiction of Pompeii in the series, in the franchise, after the Fires of Vulcan audio drama with the Seventh Doctor from 2000, and the 2008 Series 4 episode by The Fires of Pompeii with the 10th Doctor. There's probably some books or comics out there that also depict Pompeii, but those are the terms of TV series, Fires of Pompeii, and expanded media that I'm aware of, Fires of Vulcan. But yeah, it's nice, a nice little nod to that historical event in this episode. But yeah, after Joseph Williamson does his exposition about why and how he did what he did, and he's kind of he's sent back home, and that's it from him. He was popping up in almost every episode. He had a good reason to be in the story, but then they just say, we better get you back home before you get caught up in more of this. See ya. Again, maybe if they just cut him from episode 1 and maybe just had him in the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and this episode, it wouldn't be so much of a problem. Or maybe have him a bit more throughout the series. Not necessarily have a cameo in episode 4. I mean, just more appearances. Okay, let's talk about the characters that were utilized well. Claire and Jericho doing the psychic stuff. I'm not sure why the Sontarans think that humans will be able to come up with the final destination of the Flux or whatever, but the stuff they have is pretty good, especially Claire's character. I'm not entirely sure how she's so psychic. Maybe it's something to do with the angels. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it was explained in episode 4, but I can't remember. But certainly, I think maybe the angels did do have something to do with it. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe her being a psychic is what drew that angel to her in the first place. Um, but yeah, they're able to use her psychic abilities to work out with help from Jericho to work out the Flux. And Jericho gets trapped on the Sontaran spaceship and ultimately gets killed by the Flux in a very sad moment. Actually, it was a sad passing for his character as he accepts his fate and allows himself to be engulfed by the Flux on the Sontaran ship. More on why the Sontarans get fluxed later. But yeah, it was quite sad to see Jericho get die this way. He's been a great character over the last 3 episodes, almost fourth companion material for the second half of the series. A bit like what some people were thinking Vinder was going to become. But yeah, Jericho, brilliant character, and it's sad to see him go. But as the character earned that moment, even though I think maybe it could have been maybe a bit more of a heroic death, I think he definitely earned the sympathy that the fans would have for his character and the fact that he became a fan favorite in this series. R.I.P. Jericho, you were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Luckily, all the other supporting characters who were helping the Doctor do manage to get out alive. This brings us back to Belle and Vinder, who, thank goodness, they have a happy ending where they find each other. Vinder finds out that he's going to be a father, and then they go off with Carvanista, traveling across the universe. Carvanista scenes we also have are pretty cool. Sad to hear that the Lupari have been wiped out by Sontarans, but by the Sontarans, but Carvanista gets his own back later on. Thankfully, justice is served. Heck, I don't even know if what the Sontarans did was even. Well, I suppose it's Sontarany, but it wasn't battle per se. It was basically what Solomon did in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, which was written by Chris Chibnall, funny enough. Speaking of the Sontarans, first of all, we're introduced to a new weakness for them. They love sugary snacks. And we see this one Sontaran just raid a corner shop in Liverpool for chocolate sweets and fizzy drinks or sugary drinks. Actually, was that a sugary drink? I think it was an Oasis. That might not be sugary. I'm not sure. But yeah, that is a confusing new addition. Unlike what we got in War of the Sontarans or the Sontaran Stratagem Poison Sky, this is a new edition that I'm not so hot on. That they're addicted to, or some of them are addicted to sugary snacks. And this one Sontaran especially, and he loves chocolate. Although it's a funny line where his reply is, chocolate! Okay, he didn't do the tongue thing, but anyway, it's odd that the Sontarans adore chocolate. It's something to do with the gravity and gases, earth gas, not bottom gas, or something. I'm not entirely sure, but apparently Sontarans love sugary sweets now. And that's how they got Claire and Jericho into Sontaran High Command. This Sontaran was able to bring them there in exchange for being given as many sugary snacks as possible, heck, maybe even the recipe for chocolate that he can make himself. It's very odd and doesn't really make much sense, and it's kind of just in there for a bit of for a bit of humor. The rest of the Sontaran stuff pretty much fills in character for them from what we saw earlier in the series and in previous episodes, as they attempt to deceive the Daleks and the Cybermen by saying, "Oh yeah, we'll make an alliance with you," a bit like what we did in the Pandoric Opens. But actually, we're going to betray you unlike what we did in Pandoric Opens, where we actually really did team up together genuinely. But yeah, we're going to make this trap. They're going to bring Daleks and Cybermen, the other big forces who have cornered the universe up, cut the universe up, as we saw in Once Upon a Time, where they were like the big three, basically the big three invading parties of the universe, and the Sontarans invading the other two to come and join them. But it's a trap to get them destroyed, so the Sontarans could be rulers of the universe. But do you want to know what the funny thing about this is? The Daleks and the Cybermen accept, and they neither expect or have any theoretical possibilities that this could be a trap. No reservations. No, what's the catch here? No possible thinking that the Sontarans could betray them. Or B, don't have a possible plan of betrayal themselves. I mean, this is the Daleks and the Cybermen, after all. And when they are betrayed, they're like, what is happening? Oh no, we're being engulfed by the Flux. Yeah, you should have expected that. This is Sontarans you're dealing with. That they're almost likely to betray you. Heck, they do. You should have expected betrayal, and you should have come with a counter-betrayal. You're Daleks and Cybermen, for goodness sake. Oh. Ironically, the Sontarans are then also destroyed in the Flux in their own trap once the Doctor and Carvanista, Bell, and Vinda hijack the Lupari ships to shield behind the Sontarans, getting justice for Carvanista's people. However, that's where Jericho passes away, as his ring thing is damaged and destroyed, and he can't get off the ship. The ring teleport thing that takes Claire back to the TARDIS when she operates hers. And that's pretty much the end of the episode, besides the final bits with Swarm and Azura. Like I said, most of the episode is focusing on building up and stopping the Sontaran stuff, also stopping the Grand Serpent in his actually pointless vendetta against Kate Stewart. I'm with the Sontarans on this. It's pointless. Kate Stewart said she knew about him, and she's leading the resistance against him and the Sontarans. I don't know why he's bothering to go and get revenge on her. He doesn't, or whatever. He doesn't. I don't think he needs to go after her. No wonder he gets exiled. And the Flux itself is quickly resolved by putting it inside the passenger suit. And I think the passenger suit's either just left there, or but left in space, or it's taken back to its place of wherever it was being held initially. And yeah, the Flux is kind of dealt with quite quickly. It's just absorbed by passenger. And then it's just left there. Maybe it'll come back into play later on. But yeah. And the universe isn't really put back to normal. Swarm do have that power. They can reverse the Flux, bring it back, reverse, and so on, as they mentioned. But they don't do that. The universe is kind of left as it is. Okay, on one hand, you do avoid having a contrived way of fixing the universe. But on the other hand, most of the universe is now decimated. And you've lost a lot of species, including Daleks, Cybermen, and Sontarans, which is a good thing for the characters, but for us as an audience, how are those characters? How are they going to come back? I'm sure even the Daleks will make an explanation about why the Daleks are in that story. So yeah, the universe is kind of decimated now. Whoopee. And that's pretty much the end of this. And then that's all about it. Like I said, we have the Swarm Azure time stuff afterwards. Time gives the Doctor this false foreboding message about regeneration and life won't last forever. I actually thought on first ring, I thought they said the Doctor won't regenerate after disincarnation. There was no more regenerations left. They've capped it or something or whatever. But listening to the dialogue this time now, perhaps what they meant was actually this regeneration will... I know regeneration lasts forever, and no life lasts forever. So maybe what she means is the 13th Doctor's time is coming to an end, but the Doctor's time will carry on. Either one is possible. Either it means there's going to be a problem with the regeneration, but the 13th Doctor will eventually find a way to regenerate, or she's just coming to the end of her regeneration cycle, like the 10th Doctor, when he was told his song is ending, but they regenerate into the next incarnation, which carries on the Doctor's life. Again, like back with the 10th Doctor, though his song was ending, the story never ends, as Sigma says. So that could be what's going on here. That could be what time is referring to here. 13's time is coming to an end, but the Doctor won't be. Or 13's going to be the last regeneration, unless they're able to find a way to become 14. They're able to fix that before they die. It was that latter one I thought happened the first time when I first watched the episode, but when I rewatched it, I actually rewatched it not long before doing this review. It might be the former now. It might be the fact that it's just 13's life coming to an end. Also, the forces of darkness and their master are coming to get her, building up against her. This implies that the master is going to be leading some sort of the forces of darkness against the 13th Doctor for the Centenary Special. Of course, this could be a red herring. It might not actually be the Master. He might actually be on her side. Or he might just be a participant in the forces of darkness, but not necessarily the leader. Yeah, again, back to the 2009 specials, we were told of He Will Knock 4 Times when John Sim was announced as coming back as the Master. A month later, after Planet of the Dead's airing, we got the news of John Sim's return for the end of time, but it turned out he wasn't the one behind the 4 knocks. We all thought that was going to be the case because of the 4 knocks in his head and the he, as in like the Doctor's arch nemesis, but actually it turned out to be Wolf. So this forces of darkness and their master, the master could be leading these forces of darkness, but he might not be. It could be somebody else. It could be someone more dangerous. Omega? Fenric? Rassilon? Or it might be the master after all. We'll see when we get to the Centenary Special, because I don't think the next 2 episodes are going to have much to do with any of this. I think they're going to be standalone. And yeah, that brings me to my biggest issue with this episode. It feels like this is wrapping up a lot of stuff, but it feels like it's done way too quickly, and it feels like there's some things left over. Like Storm Azur's ending just feels rushed, and whilst we get a lot of stuff that was set up in this series resolved, there's still some bits left hanging, and that's not even bringing in the series 12 and slightly 11. Slight bits of 11 back into play. It just feels like we're still hanging on in there for those final revelations, which probably won't come until next autumn with the Centenary Special. Again, I'm not expecting much to tie in with this in the New Year Special or next year's Easter Special. I don't think it's been confirmed for Easter, but we can presume it's Easter. Definitely going to be spring. So most of this is going to be wrapped up in the double-length Centenary Special episode, meaning that episode is going to be crammed to bursting point. Yeah, it'll be double length, but it's still going to be just one episode. And I feel like maybe some things should have been wrapped up by the end of this episode, with a few things left over for the Centenary and the other 2 specials. Well. And that's what made it feel that's why I didn't think this worked that well as a finale when I first watched the episode. I think I have a bit more of appreciation for it now after rewatching it. It's got a bit more of a finale feel, wrapping up some of the stories. But when I watched it, I felt like there's still some bits missing. There's still some bits left over. I think we should have had a 7th episode to tie this all up. Or make this episode maybe 65, 17 minutes long instead of just 60. And why on earth were the episodes in this series flipping back and forth between 50 and 60 minutes, or 55 for Village of the Angels case? Just make them all 60 minutes, or make them all 50 minutes apart from the last one, which can be 60. Why are they flip-flopping between 50 and 60 minutes? Just make them all 50 or 60 minutes long. Maybe the last one can be a bit longer because it's the finale. I don't get it. Why are they flipping back and forth with this series? Most series have them the same rough runtime for the majority of episodes, or all of the episodes, depending on the series or season. Maybe some episodes are slightly longer. But this series, it kept going. It was like the odd number of episodes are 50 minutes. The even number of episodes are 55 or 60 minutes. I just hope the specials are going to be 70 minutes then. 80 or 90 minutes for the Centennial one, but the other two 70 minutes. Oh boy. Anyway, so yeah, but this episode felt like maybe there was some bits left over, and it should have been a little bit longer, or there should have been a 7th episode to wrap it up a little bit more. But on the second viewing, it did feel more of a wrap up and a bit more finale-ish. But I still think there could have been a bit more expanded upon, like more about Swarm and Azure, for example, and their hatred with the Doctor. Yeah, they fought with the fugitive Doctor in the Division, but we could have learned a bit more about that. It's a shame they're still hidden in the dark. Oh well, we'll just have to wait until Big Finish gets the rights to the 13th Doctor era and 13th Doctor characters to expand on them. Joe Martin's definitely up for doing audios, so I've heard from a couple of friends. So we might get some Fugitive Doctor audios later down the line. Definitely after next year. But yeah, as a finale, this episode could have been... It's a good finale, but I think it could have been even better. But the episode, as a standalone individual episode of Flux, or just Series 13, it's a pretty great episode. It just, I think maybe could have been a bit ironed out with some of those points. On a production scale, again, looks really great with the sets. A lot of visual effects, but I think they play really well in this episode, and it's all handled really well. Azar Sadim, I think he does a really good job with this episode as well. I think Survivors of the Flux is slightly better directed, but I think this one is a close second. And although he did a really good job with the practical stuff in Once Upon a Time as well, and I think he handles this really well. As I said, effects look great. Cinematography looks great. Sets look great. Editing, okay. I know a lot of people have complained about the editing in this episode, and I can understand that because we are quickly cutting back and forth between 3 different versions of the Doctors and several characters. But I think it actually works for the most part. There's some not so great bits, but I think, and some of that can also be partly due to the direction, cinematography, and the visual effects as well. But for the most parts, the editing is okay. My actual biggest problem with the editing, is the weakest bit I found was actually this one simple cut between 2 shots, which was a shot of Dan and Yaz getting out the TARDIS when one of the Splinter's doctors comes to rescue the other from Grand Serpent. We have a side shot of Dan coming out the TARDIS. We're seeing Yaz about to come out. We then awkwardly cut to a shot of them from in front, facing them from the front, and then Yaz coming out and closing the door. It just looks a little bit awkward. You could still have got on Dan saying his line whilst cutting between the two, or maybe you could have extended one or the other of those shots. What were you, pressed for time? That's why you can hold on the first shot a bit longer? Jesus Christ, it's editing 101 and a half. Besides that, I didn't have as much of an issue with the editing as most other people did. So, The Vanquishers is a good ending to Flux, but I think it could have been even better. The story is quite great, but I think there could have been a bit more wrap up in places. And the visual effects look pretty great. The sets look great. The editing is mostly great. The cinematography is really great. Direction is really great. Acting is really, really great. There's some really good acting in this episode. Really great. And props to all of the actors who did a brilliant job in this episode. And it was just a really great episode. However, I just felt like there were some things that could have been expanded on or just felt missing, or should have been dealt with in this episode instead of being saved for later, or kicked out sooner. But it still felt like a really good final episode to the series. And as for Flux overall, as a overall story, I think I probably would give that Flux as a whole a 9 out of 10. But yeah, it's a little all over the place. But to be honest, each of the 6 episodes does do their own thing, whilst also tying into the big serial. So a bit like the Trial of the Time Lords, 4 segments did their own thing whilst also tying into the big 14-part serial. So yeah, it's a little all over the place for this story, but it's still a really great story. And Series 13 is probably the strongest 13th Doctor series. I I was hoping to go in and say this is one of the best series of the show. I wanted to say in my big 39 season ranking, I know it's only been the most recent series, but Jesus, season 39, series 13 is so fucking amazing. Sadly, I won't be able to go and say that now, but it's still a really great season, and it's still 13's best. And apart from maybe some niggles with episode 3, but even they're not that many, and a couple of nitpicks elsewhere, other than that, I don't think I can say this is a bad series. It's not at all. This is a really... I don't even think any of the series are that bad. My least favourite is only my least favourite due to the fact it has more meh to bad episodes in it. But even then, the meh to good episodes are... Well, one of them is amazing, and the other one is one of the greatest stories of the show. I'm talking about season 17, by the way, the one that's coming to Blu-ray in about a week and a half's time. Season 17 is my least favourite season, but the only reason for that is that I found 4 of the 5, 6, if you count Sharda stories, as meh. Well, yeah, mostly meh, or slightly weaker than meh. They're heading down towards bad, although I don't think they get that far, but they're in that territory. Whilst there's only 2 stories, heck, 1 if you don't count Sharda, that are meh to good. And Sharda is amazing, and City of Death is one of my all-time favourite stories. God, I would have loved to have seen it at the BFI. I did go down to BFI to meet some of my friends from the Universals, but sadly I didn't get to actually see the episode on the big screen. Did watch it before I did go down those on my computer, so that made up for it. But the point is, none of the Doctor Who seasons or series are bad in my opinion. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, because there are plenty of both classic and New Who series that a lot of people hate, especially from the 80s and the Moffat era, and this era as well. But yeah, I'm putting my stamp down saying all 39 seasons are good in some way, even if they contain lots of bad stories, or in the case of season 17, more mediocre than good. But for series 13, I can safely say this is definitely more good than bad, but it's not quite the heights of, say, series 4, season 13, series 3, season 26, season 7, series 1, season 14, season 12, series 5, series 10, season 10, and most of the 60s seasons. Scratch out all of the 60s seasons. I think this is more around maybe it's around the halfway mark in my list overall at the moment. We'll see how it goes, but yes, series 13 has been a good series. It's been a very good series, definitely the best of 13s, but it's not gonna be one I'm gonna be saying this series was... I know this series is quite new, but Jesus, it's so fucking great, and put it quite high on the ranking. Sadly, I can't do that. I was really hoping I was going to do that, but sadly not. But well, I can definitely also say The Vanquishers is easily the best of the 3 13th Doctor series finales, and the best series finale since World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls. Although it's not as good as that finale, because that's the second best new series finale and one of the best series finales of the show. This one, yeah, it's a good one. So I will be giving Flux Chapter 6, The Vanquishers, a 8 out of 10. Yeah, it's a very good episode, but I think it could have been slightly better as a finale. It could have been slightly better. I do have more of an appreciation for it after the second viewing than the first, but I still think maybe there could have been a few more improvements to it for a finale status. However, episode status, it's still pretty good. Enjoyable one. That's really about it from my review of Doctor Who Flux The Vanquishers. It was a great episode. Could have been better as a finale, but I like it more as a finale now after a second viewing than the first. Rewatches are usually a good thing, people. Do it. It's generally a good idea to give a story another chance, and then, or give it another viewing, and then you can see whether you're like, oh, okay, I liked it the first time, but now I really like it, or I don't like it, or I didn't really like it the first time around, but now I really, really don't like it, or now I do like it. Or, yeah, opinions can massively change on rewatches. It's not just the second, you get a third, fourth, fifth, whatever, hundredth, thousandth, etc. So, yeah, some opinions will stay the same, obviously, after multiple rewatches, but others will differ. So that's why it's always a good idea to give some episodes a rewatch. Right, that's really okay. That is definitely it for the Vanquishers, and that's it for Flux. A great series, a great serial, but with a lot of flaws and issues, as discussed over the 6 episode reviews. I will be doing a ranking of this series soon. That will be the next Doctor Who video on this channel, apart from news videos or something. And then we'll be on to the New Year's special, Eve of the Daleks, which had a pretty poor teaser at the end of this episode. What is it with New Year's Day specials and having poor teasers at the end of the series finale episodes? Well, okay, Revolution of the Daleks didn't have one at the end of Timeless Children, but it did have the Doctor will return in Revolution of the Daleks on New Year's. Will return on New Year's Day in Revolution of the Daleks. That's actually better. That was actually better than the 2 teasers that we had for the specials from Battle Ranks Graph Colossus for Resolution and for Eve of the Daleks from this one. I will say this one is slightly better than the Resolution one because that's just a part of one scene that is just slapped on in there to say, oh yeah, we're going to have a New Year special. That's it. This one at least says we're going to have a New Year special set on New Year's Eve, and there's going to be Daleks in it. Oh, and the Doctor and the companions seem to have been exterminated. The full-on BBC One trailer actually expands a bit more on what the plot is, as does the description of the episode. It's going to be a time loop, and the Daleks, and this guy's storage place, and actually the guy's called Nick, funny enough, and the storage place is owned by a character played by Aisling B, so she's going to be great, I expect. She's already looking pretty great in this teaser, as is the guy playing Nick. And there's a trio of Daleks, and they're in this self-storage place, and they're exterminating everyone. But there's a time loop or something. I've heard it described as basically a Christmas or in this case New Year horror movie or slasher movie with a Groundhog Day twist. So that'll be pretty interesting. And also promotion shows the TARDIS damaged cracking, so that would be pretty interesting to see how that goes. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this review of Doctor Who Flux The Vanquishers. I'll see you guys next time for the Doctor Who Series 13, aka Flux, ranking. And then, unless I'm able to do some of the animation reviews, the next one after that will be Eve of the Daleks. I'll see you guys then, or whatever comes next. Oh yeah, I'm still wearing this lanyard to support disability in media, and I'll wear it for the ranking, if I remember, and hopefully also Eve of the Daleks. Yeah. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne YouTube channel. While swarming and find out, and yeah. But anyway, so yeah, the timeless child. So yeah, when I say 2/3 of Asher, sorry, no, that's the implying the ending of Ascension to Sidemen. Sorry, meant 2/3 through that episode. 8/9 through the story. Well, actually, it's a 2-parter, but I'm also including Haunting of Villa Diodati over for his story. Anyway, that's getting confusing. Don't worry about it. But yes, give or take a couple of years, but still. Or I say a couple of years. I mean, he's predicting Omega is the big bad of the 60th, or 13's big final story. Anyway, back onto the actual episode. I don't really know. Actually, maybe someone can explain in the comments. But after 2 viewings, I don't actually know what Bell's supposed to be doing when the Doctor and Carvanista went onto Sontaran's spaceship. Sontaran Command. I think the when they messed that up, when they met. Other than that, there isn't really much in a bit excuse. Speaking of the Sontarans and the yeah, see. Fuck me. But yeah, what's going on? So but or next after next year, after the Centenary special, they'll get not necessarily straight away, but sometime after the Centenary special, and then Big Finish will get the rights to 13. Shortly afterwards, they got the rights to 12 not long after Twice Upon a Time, but then again, they didn't. I don't think they got the rights to all the Stephen Moffat era stuff until after Deneva. So, apart from the audio goose stuff. So overall, I shall be passing Doctor. I did watch the episode again, but yeah. So point is, series 13. I don't think any of this. And yeah, I think like, but Jesus, it's so fucking cool when it's fucking. So goodbye.